Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's live face-to-face session with Mr. Satyakam Arya, MD and CEO of Daimler India Commercial Vehicles. This session will focus on navigating the new normal and is organized by the team at Commercial Vehicle Forum, or as we are more popularly called, CVF. I guess you can see that in my background as well. So just to give you a quick introduction, Commercial Vehicle Forum is India's premium, C-level commercial vehicle event. And given the current situation, we've had to postpone our event to the second half of 2020 and await government guidelines on the way forward. In the meantime, some of you reached out to us and asked us to organize live sessions, and therefore we are here today for our second one. Also, I wanted to once again take this chance to personally thank each and every one of you for the overwhelming response. Our first session was completely packed, and so is this one. We really appreciate the support. Thank you so much. And before we jump into this, I just wanted to share a few ground rules that in case you want to ask any questions, would ask you to ask those questions in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. I'm asking you to direct your questions to the Q&A section because that will help us focus help them address in a focused manner. Okay. And other than that, we will be running some polls during the session. So to keep the session interactive and engaging, and invite you to share your insights. Lastly, I hope you enjoyed this session and find it useful for your business. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to today's moderator for the session, Ms. Hetal Gandhi, who's director at CRISIL Research. Hetal has spent around 15 years at CRISIL analyzing India's corporate landscape and currently looks at consumption, infrastructure, and technology verticals at CRISIL with a special focus on automobile and auto component sector. Over to you, Hetal.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rohit, and welcome everyone for this session organized by CVF, Navigating the New Normal. Today, we are going to be focusing on having a conversation with Mr. Satyakam Arya, CEO and MD of Daimler Commercial Vehicles India Limited. The session will be a short chat session of around 35-40 minutes with Mr. Arya, where we would be having interactions on the CV industry to be specific. And we would also be taking up some questions. During the session, you will also have some poll questions coming up on your screen. Please feel free to fill them up so that we also get the on-the-ground pulse of the market. To begin with, let me introduce all of you to Mr. Arya. Mr. Arya has around 25 years of experience as an auto veteran. He joined DICV in 2009, and he has spent over a decade in the CV space itself. He has navigated through prominent roles in procurement, supply chain, customer services before he took over as MD and CEO of DICV almost 2 years back. So welcome, Mr. Arya. We are going to be today chatting with him on the commercial vehicle sector, and the entire automobile industry is undergoing a huge change. New opportunities are set to emerge, but before that, sailing through this downturn is going to be really important. The auto sector, which is valued at around 3.7 lakh crores in 2020, is expected to see a second year or double-digit drop in almost all sectors. Utilization levels across each of the auto segments is at a decadal low. If I can get only more specific with the commercial vehicle sector, we could see utilization levels drop to almost 39 to 40% in FY21. March, April, and May are a witness to the kind of volume drop that we have seen for the sector. It all began with axle norms being introduced somewhere in August 2018, and it has only gone worse with the NBFC crisis impacting the secondary commercial vehicle finance industry, and followed by that, the downturn, which is now making things only worse. So, let's quickly dig into, what is it in store for the commercial vehicle industry. So welcome, Mr. Arya.
Thank you, Hetal.
Yeah. So I'll quickly start with my questions and you can take over the session. I think everyone knows that the CV industry is facing a challenging year. And given that you are one of the prominent key leaders in the industry, if you were to give three key areas that CV OEM should be focusing on, what would be your advice to everyone?
Sure, Hetal, thank you. And before I answer your question, thank you, Rohit, for inviting me to this platform and share my thoughts on navigating the new normal for the CV industry. And thank you, Hetal, also for welcoming me, introducing me, and sharing some key trends on what the industry is going through right now. Well, before I answer the question, let me also say good afternoon to everyone who is on this platform right now. And I hope that you all are safe and healthy, and I really wish that it stays that way in the coming future. Well, there is no doubt that these are defining times. And the one sentence which I've heard the most in the recent weeks is what Lenin said in 1919, so almost 100 years ago. He had said that there are decades when nothing happens, and then there are weeks when decades happen. And we definitely are going through such weeks right now. This time will go down in history as the time where a lot of things in the world will get reshaped and changed forever. So even if it is challenging at this moment, we all are a part of living history. And so let's be open to this change and take some permanent lessons from it. So now, Hetal, you asked what are the three things which the CV industry should focus on. Well, if you ask me, the CV industry has been facing a challenging times in the last 1.5 years. And you already said it briefly. But let me just dwell a little bit deeper into that. The major challenge has been on the demand side. In the last 5 years, the industry almost doubled its size, where in 2018 we had more than 378,000 trucks sold, right? And then in 2019, the industry took a complete U-turn and had a contraction of up to 35 to 40%. And there are very well-known reasons for that. You mentioned some of them: Axle load norms implementation, GST. Then we had the liquidity crunch starting somewhere in end of 2018. And then when we also saw that the GDP growth, which used to be at a level of 7 to 8%, came down to 4 to 5% in 2019. Right? Now, there is a very important point here which we must take note of. Axle load norms added about 25% additional capacity in the fleets. It was not only implemented for the new trucks sold, it was implemented for all the trucks which are running on Indian roads. And this is not a one-time correction. This is a permanent correction. If you look at GST norms, in our estimate, the fleet utilizations went up to 10% because of that. So the turnaround time became better. And even if it leads to a short-term contraction in demand, we believe this is better for the industry. Right? Now, with that background, we stepped into 2020. And frankly, we were anticipating a 10% contraction in demand even in this year, simply because we were going to implement BS6 emission norms from 1st of April. And we have seen in other markets, Daimler is a worldwide player. We have seen that wherever we implement Euro 6 or equivalent norms, the industry in that year slows down by about 10%. This is also driven by the pre-buy which happens before the switch, right? So the challenge on the demand side is going to be exceptionally high, right? Now, keeping that in mind, what are the three areas of focus according to me for the entire industry? And this would be the 3 R's I will talk about. The first one is reboot, right? I think a good part of 2020 will keep us busy to reboot and stabilize our entire value chain. And when I say value chain, I'm talking about 3 aspects. One is on the supply chain or the supply side. The second is the value which we create inside our factories. And the third is on the distribution or on the sales side. So we all have to restart that very safely, maintaining the social distancing protocols, which we all know now, right? Let's keep in mind one more thing. Never ever before it has been shut down so abruptly and restarted like that, right? So the safety of our employees has to be the number one priority for all of us, right? And we have to do it for the tier 2s, the tier 3s, and the dealer partners. So everyone has to restart in a very safe manner. We must help our stakeholders when we do that. We must support them. When we look at DICV, we paid entire full salaries for all our staff during the lockdown. We even paid all our contractual employees and the service providers. And I strongly believe that we have to remain socially responsible during this crisis, because the nature of the crisis is like that. The government cannot do everything. We all have to pitch in. So that's the first R, reboot. The second R is resilience. Like all other crises, let us also not let this one go waste, right? We have to cut down costs. We have to replan our investments, postpone or cancel what we don't need, but also continue to invest where we need to secure our long term. In a crisis of this nature, conserving cash becomes of paramount importance. So tie up your liquidity and make sure that you pay your suppliers in time. Another important thing will be to bring agility and execution. Why? Because we will all see very different scenarios playing out in front of us right now. So we should be agile to get adjusted to them when they arrive. And the third and the final R is reimagine. What do I mean by that? Well, this crisis is a once in a century event. And events like this leave us with permanent change in the way we live our lives or we do our business. So you can't wait for the crisis to be over to start working on that. It is important to imagine right now what will change and start working on that. How will it impact us? What needs to be done to embrace this change? I get reminded of what Charles Darwin had once said. It's not the smartest or the most intelligent who survive. It's always the one who are the most adaptable to change. So these are the three things which I would suggest that everyone focuses on in a crisis of this nature.
Wow, this was really great. Reboot, replan, and reimagine. The three R's.
Resilient and reimagine.
Correct. So the 3 R's for anybody who is in the CV industry is something that Mr. Arya is suggesting. Coming back, and I'll come to a few of the things on reimagine that you said in a while, but coming back to the short term, the government today has provided incentives, has focused on providing incentives to MSMEs. You also touched upon that about helping the suppliers, ensuring that payments to them are being done on time. So in a way, ensuring that the ecosystem is live. And the government is also focused on incentives over there. But there are no direct incentives which are being provided as on today to trigger actual demand on the ground. And the government is not close to that. Even the RBI governor did mention in his talk that there will be a second round of changes that they would come up somewhere around September. So I'm sure that they have some plans in place. But what is it that you believe could be some of the measures that government can focus on if real demand needs to be brought back?
Well, first let's look at what government has already done, right? And I think maybe not in line with expectations, but the government has come with a very composite package. And what are the three main parts of this package? The first one is they have tried to address the most needy sections of the society with a support that they can survive through this crisis. The second one which they have done is they have given a liquidity support to the most demanding sectors like the medium and small enterprises or construction and real estate. Right? And the third is that they have used this crisis to push ahead some reforms which were waiting for a long time. And this is mainly in the mining and the agriculture sector. Right? If you ask me, my reading of the situation is that the government will wait and watch after the unlocking has happened, how the economy recovers. And then they will come with sectoral reforms, right? So I think that's the one thing which they are waiting for. Right. Everyone realizes that this is a crisis of a longer nature. It's a prolonged road to recovery, which means not everything can be given at the first instance without knowing how this unfolds before us. In fact, I just take a cue from one of your colleagues whom we had an interaction with last week. He talked about the incentive package given by other countries, which was more a fire hose approach, which means you immediately come with a big stimulus to put money in the hands of people, assuming that this will be spent on demand. Correct. Creating. Well, if you look at one aspect, we are still in a stage where the infections are rising, right? And when the infections are rising, we will continue to see disruptions. For example, Chennai is going into another lockdown from tomorrow, right? And why will that happen? In every place, when we will reach the capacity of the medical infrastructure we have created, we will have no option but to lock down for a period, to gain some time to create more infrastructure, at the same time to bring down the spread or the curve, right? So I think there will be disruptions on the way. And till that time this happens, the economic activity will remain subdued, right? So I think the government will wait for how the economic revival happens before they come with any sector-specific reforms. But let me also just comment on what they have come up with and how this will impact the CV industry. Well, if you carefully analyze what they have done, and if you dissect the CV industry into various segments, we expect the construction segment, the mining segment, and the e-commerce segment to do better, primarily driven by the spending which the government will do in these sectors. And e-commerce, because more and more people will shift to online buying of things due to a fear of going out while there's infection out there, right? But we also have to wait and watch now when will the real impact of this stimulus comes on the ground. And if you ask me, I'm very hopeful that we will start to see a real action by the Q3 or Q4 of this calendar year, right? Now, keeping that in background, we also expect that the medium and heavy commercial vehicle industry will have a degrowth of about 40 to 50% during calendar year 2020. Now, that's a huge drop, and you also mentioned that. And this is coming on top of the 35% which we saw in 2019.
Right.
So, it's going to be really a very low year. But then we also expect that in 2021, there will be a sharp rebound, maybe as high as 30% from a low level of 2020, right? Now, there is one thing which could change this picture, and that would be if there is a scrappage policy which comes out. Government has been talking about this policy, and we are all waiting by when this could be rolled out. But there, it will also depend on how this policy is designed and how this is actually implemented on the ground. So I believe this would be one factor which could influence a better result for 2020.
Right. So I think you touched upon three key areas during this question. One, that you believe that the spending that can recover in construction and mining sectors can bring about some respite by the time we reach the end or the closure of this year. The second part that you touched upon is that you might still end with a double-digit sharp decline for MHCVs at the end of this year. And there is scrappage policy that can bring about some respite for calendar year 21. So clearly, curve of recovery, factors that will drive recovery, all of it is being touched upon. What do you believe, and given that DICV has been successfully able to tap into its global network through these times to get production ready, would you like to share some key parameters that auto component players should be aware of and could be helpful to them as they resume operations?
Well, you're right. We are a part of trucks globally, and this gives us access to vast pool of resources, including over 100 years of automotive technology and a global supply network and international pool of resources, right? And that is exactly what we did during this crisis. We've stayed in very close contact with our partners because we wanted to share with them the benefits of this knowledge and resources which we have accumulated over a period. And I'll give you some examples. When we started, we created a massive 65-page manual on how to restart operations with all guidelines of social distancing, hygiene, and health. So one thing which we did is we shared this with our supplier partners. We even gave them trainings where it was necessary to do so, right? And then we created an online engagement platform like we are interacting today. We also did it with our suppliers, and we named it Partner Connect, where we invited industry experts as well to join us and give these companies a perspective on what's happening in the market and how should the industry deal with this situation, right? We know that some of these smaller companies won't have access to a resource like that, so we provided it to them. Now, what could help them in the business, right? We've been continuously using the capable Indian supplier base to supply parts globally. In fact, so far we have cumulatively exported 125 million parts to different parts of Daimler, right? And we have decided that we will even enhance this thrust during these times, right? So this means additional business opportunity for our supplier partners. Just that everyone knows, some years ago, we made DICV the only hub for making medium duty transmission for Daimler. So this is the only place we make it, and we export it to Western Europe, right? And a lot of Indian suppliers are supplying for that, which means that they benefit. Now with BS6, I see new opportunities because we can export even those parts and aggregates to different parts of Daimler world, right? Another aspect which comes due to COVID is, managing overseas supply chains would become very difficult during this time, right? We have localized about 90% of what we buy. So we've done really achieved a lot, but we decided that we will enhance this further even now. So we are targeting to localize whatever we can, even going beyond 98%. And this throws additional opportunities for our suppliers to develop new technologies and supply to us, and later on maybe also to other parts of Daimler, right? Our philosophy of dealing with suppliers always has been based on principles of performance, mutual trust, and a win-win, right? And we decided that we will follow these principles, whether it is good times or whether it is bad times.
Okay, great. So that's a wonderful thing to know, that A, doing more local outsourcing, and B, also enabling supplying to other international parts of the world is something that you are taking up pretty seriously to helping the auto component manufacturers sail through this. There is another leg of the ecosystem, which is the dealer base. And today they are also facing an equal amount of hardship and tough times. How is DICV working along with the dealer network to ensure that they stay afloat during these tough times when volumes have fallen so sharply?
Well, you're right, absolutely. That is a sector which definitely is stressed due to this crisis, and even before. Well, here I would take a step back. Well, we had in January launched our BS6 range, and I think that proposition which we are bringing to the market gave much higher confidence to dealers and customers. Why do I say so? Well, our BS6 comes with a technology which we know since 8 years. We have more than 14 lakh trucks and buses running around the world with that technology. So we have a very extensive experience on the technology. The second is, we know that with BS6, the price of products is going to go up, right? And then we said, where can we provide better value to our customers? So our BS6 range comes with up to 10% better fuel efficiency than a BS4 in segments like e-commerce, where you have extensive usage of a truck, right? We even brought down the maintenance cost of a BS6 as compared to a BS4. Normally with emission upgrade, the maintenance cost goes up. We even brought it down by 6%. And then we have offered up to 8 years of extended warranty and up to 10 years of maintenance contracts. Why are we confident to offer that? Because we know how reliable our technology is. In fact, I would like to mention here, we have just some weeks ago or months ago created a platform called Millionaire Club. What does that mean? The first trucks which we sold in 2012 have now done 1 million kilometers. And they are still fitted with the same factory fitted powertrain, the same engine and the transmission with no refurbishment. And that's the reliability which we offer to our customers. So, our dealer partners are very confident of the value proposition which we are bringing to our customers, which is even better than a BS4. The second is, when this transition happened from BS4 to BS6, we made sure that our BS4 stock is sold well in time, which means our dealers are not stressed right now because they have an unsold BS4 stock on their premises or in their books. This helps. Now, we didn't stop here, of course. I talked about reboot. So we supported our dealers in rebooting their operations with all those guidelines. We gave them trainings. We are doing a lot of digital webinars with our customers and dealers right now. We also rolled out a dealer support program recently to help them tide during this difficult period. I think we need to support our partners, as I said. Another thing which we are doing is, I talked about resilience. So we are helping them to become more resilient during these times by helping them bring down their cost without affecting their sales performance. So what we are doing is we are re-looking at the processes in a workshop. We are trying to streamline those process flows and making them more agile, increasing the efficiency, and so that we can not only bring the cost down, but be also more responsive to the customer. Right? So that's another thing which we are doing. Very recently, we did another initiative. We had to encourage customers to bring back their vehicles into the workshops when the restrictions go away. Right? And one such thing which we did is a ProCheck campaign, which is running right now, which offers BharatBenz customers a free vehicle health check and a sanitization. Right? You know, these machines have been standing for more than 2 months due to this lockdown. And it's very important that we not only service them, but we also check the health of the vehicle and make it suitable for safety, hygiene, and fuel efficiency. So, you know, we are doing a lot of things with our dealers to help them tide during this difficult times with us.
Yeah, these are really uncertain times where we also need to provide sanitization facilities to trucks. Really innovative thinking over here. I'm going to delve a little deeper on BS6 because the market really needs to understand what is exactly changing. But before that, audiences, we would also be opening up our polls. The first question of the poll talks about opening up of the economy and living with COVID has become the new normal. How long do you think it shall take to sync with the economy as a whole and then further gradual result in demand recovery for CVs? Please fill up the polls while we delve more into questions. The question is about how long do you think it shall take to sink into the economy as a whole and gradually result in demand recovery specifically for commercial vehicles? Once you submit that, I'll move on to my next question. So while the audiences give us the perspective of, what is their view on demand recovery, BS6 has been one touchy topic, and of course not the best year for it to be launched because it is going to expect it to increase in prices as well. Could you help the potential buyers understand about the technology, how it compares with BS4, and what do you believe is expected to happen in terms of the change that they can experience in the vehicle itself?
Well, BS6 is definitely a big improvement as far as emissions are concerned from a BS4. In fact, India is the only country which took a leap straight from BS4 to 6 in a 3-year time. We had BS4 running only for 3 years. And how much better it is. Let me give you a statistic here. A BS6, or let me say it differently. About 10 to 12 BS6 trucks produce the same level of NOx and particulate matter as one BS3. So that's a substantial jump in technology or emissions. So it's very good for environment what we are doing. But we have to also keep in mind rolling out a BS6 may not bring down the pollution level as people expect. We will only add less going forward, right? Now, what changes for the customer? Actually, nothing. For BharatBenz customer, nothing will change. We have, of course, upgraded the truck or the bus to deal with BS6, but for the customer, nothing will change. They still have to drive like they used to. They have to fill up AdBlue when they need to, and there'll be an indicator for that. And they will have to actually just do like they did, right? If you technically look at the product itself, of course, we have added a after-treatment system in the exhaust system of the truck and bus. And that's like a mini chemical factory. And this takes away all the emissions or the pollutants from the exhaust air, right? We have made sure that our solution is technically very, very robust. So at a very infrequent interval, once in more than 1 lakh kilometer, you have to change just one filter. It's called a DPF filter, and that's all. You can just operate your truck like you used to.
Okay. Also, a lot of concerns among buyers on fuel efficiency. So would you like to comment on that as well?
Well, if you look at a thumb rule, and that's a technical thumb rule, not a layman thumb rule. If you upgrade emission, normally the fuel efficiency drops by about 5%, right? But as I said earlier, we have 8 years of experience, and we knew that with BS6, there is a substantial jump in material content of the vehicles, which means the cost will go up. And we've always played in the market with the value equation to the customer and not on price. And we then did a calculation on what is the cost or economics of running a BS4 truck and how can we make that better. Let's not forget that the cost of buying a truck is only 10% of the life cycle cost. So even if it goes up, you have a 90% scope to make better. And like I said earlier, we made sure that the fuel efficiency of a BharatBenz BS6 is better than a BS4, even up to 10% for a segment like e-commerce. The maintenance cost is lower. It normally goes up when the emission norms are upgraded. So it's 6% lower. And then we offer an 8-year extended warranty and a 10-year AMC. We also added a lot of safety features in our truck. And there's another very interesting thing which we have done. You know, all our BS6 range comes with a truck connect and a bus connect. It's a telematic solution. And it's the best in the industry. So how it helps is that the fleet owners get a lot more insights into their operation. If you look at the logistics cost in India, it's about 14 to 15% of GDP. In Western economies, like for example, in Germany, it's about 8 to 10%. We still have to gain a lot of efficiency in our fleet operations. And our Truck Connect and Bus Connect will help the fleet owners to do that. They can get a lot of insights into how their fleet is doing, and they can use that data to bring down their cost of operation, which means they make additional profit and better cost for the consumer. Right? So I think we are very excited, even though the market is subdued, that our BS6 proposition is absolutely or undoubtedly the best in the industry, and the customers will only gain and not going backwards from a BS4.
Yeah, so this is a great insight. While people have been a little skeptical about having lower efficiency with BS6, we are not only talking about better efficiency, we are talking about extended contracts. So with that, let's open the second question from our poll, where driver, which is an important part of the ecosystem.
Hetal, I would like to, sorry, Hetal, I would like to share the results for the first one.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so I think 42% of the people are talking about a recovery possible only within a year, which is bang on even what Mr. Arya has been saying. He's talking about the recovery happening only towards the end of the year. We have another 40 odd percent that is talking about between 6 to 9 months recovery to normal beginning to happen. So that's our answer for the first question. Let's move on to the second one, where we can talk about, so we were talking about the ecosystem. We touched upon suppliers, we touched upon dealers. CV driver is also an important part of the ecosystem, and as Mr. Arya highlighted, they are providing services to sanitize the vehicle. Do you believe that lack of availability of drivers will also delay the demand recovery? That's the second question of the poll. Please quickly submit your answers so that we can move on to the next round of questions with Mr. Arya. Yes, so, we have spoken about technology, we have spoken about, government regulations. I would like to touch upon another stakeholder within the industry, and that is the transporters, the right now situation for transporters. So we definitely understand that the weak demand situation has impacted availability of freight for the transporters and therefore their cash flows and profitabilities. how do you believe they are going to react to this entire situation over the next 4 to 6 months, with low load availability and volatility in demand or a recovery perspective that exists in the market today? Yes, Mr. Ari.
Sure, Hetal, thank you. Well, talking about the logistics players or the fleet operators, if you look at the lockdown period, the utilization of trucks went down to as low as 5%. And why? Because we were only transporting essential goods around the country. And now when the unlocking has started, we have seen that this has started to inch up and has reached a level of 30 to 40%, depending on the geography and the segment we are talking about. But these are still very low levels of utilization, and it's hard to believe that anyone would be profitable with that kind of utilization of the fleet. Now, what we also expect, looking at the demand, which I talked about earlier, and the economy, that the average fleet utilization levels in 2020 would be in the range of 55%. And this is about 10 basis points lower than 2019. So this is a segment which will definitely remain stressed in 2020. Now, within the segment, of course, the construction could do better and not the others. But there we have to see whether the government is able to keep pace on spending on the infrastructure side. Now, what could be the outcome of that? We expect a consolidation to happen among the logistics players. And we believe that the small and medium fleet operators would be affected the most because of very low demand, pressure on pricing, and also inability to pay their EMIs, right? There's a very famous quote from Warren Buffett, which frankly applies to the entire CV industry and not only to the fleet operators. He had once said that when the tide goes out, then only you know who was swimming naked, right? And CV industry was already undergoing a slowdown, and before this COVID happened, and many fleet operators were in a weak financial position. And further drop in demand of goods, lower fleet utilization levels will mean higher delinquencies, and many of them may not be able to survive if this is a prolonged crisis. So it's a desperate situation, and I hope the government does something about that. A faster economic recovery would definitely help.
Correct. Yeah, so this is a great perspective. I think I totally second that thought on what we also at CRISIL expect in terms of delinquency levels in the CV space, and that any fresh financing might also come up with a lot of caution from lenders, which is going to be a difficult phase for transporters to transition. So structurally, we can actually see the logistics industry starting to see the consolidation which many have been hoping. So let's now move on from a scenario that is going to be a business as usual scenario. We all have been longing for that. So let's leave COVID behind and say we enter 2022, and what is it that you believe is going to change dynamics in terms of the kind of products which are going to be offered? For example, you spoke about the mining sector. Iron ore auctions have already happened, and CRISIL believes that the premiums at which these iron ore auctions have happened, you will actually start looking at a lot of change in dynamics in the way iron ore is actually moving across in the country. It may also open a potential for some imports and therefore transportation that would be coming from ports to various plants. Coal, today the government has announced about going for auctions for the coal side of it as well, and the Prime Minister has emphasized that he wants to look at India as a net exporter of coal. So how do you believe this is going to provide a benefit to the HCV segment, and how do you expect this sector contributing to uptick in the total demand over the long term?
Well, when you talk of long term, let me start with another perspective. And it's a very simple thing. If you plot the population in a country to the number of trucks sold, you will find that India is the only country which is a clear outlier. Right? Because then you see a line emerging, depending on the population and the number of trucks sold, where China is, of course, at the top. and the Western economy is at the bottom because they have low population, but still a demand of drugs in that linear line. And India is definitely an outlier, which means the long-term potential of growth in India is intact, right? And that's why we came and invested that much in India, because we believe in that potential. So by 2020, assuming that the worst of COVID is behind us, the economy would start to recover, and I expect that India would recover much sooner and much better than others. We would definitely start to see the medium and heavy commercial vehicle industry growing. There's another indicator here. If you look at the last 30 years or 40 years of Indian commercial vehicle industry, you will always find whenever we had cycles, we had 5 years of solid growth, and then down of 2 to 3 years. So maximum we had seen 9 quarters of degrowth. Now this situation, of course, is very unique. So this 9 could be higher or more, but by definitely 2022 the demand would come back. Now, what are the factors which could influence? You talked about coal mining, and India has adequate reserves of coal that it need not import, but we still do so. And I think government has done a great thing by deregulating this sector and opening it to privatization. And as you just said, the actual work has started on ground, which is a good signal. So what we definitely expect is that the demand for tippers, and especially the deep mining tippers, will go up. Construction mining segment will go up, and this will definitely benefit the economy. Yeah. If we stop to import coal and even export, this is better, because not only do we save on cost, but we also save on outgo of foreign exchange, right? So I believe that by 2022, India will be on a solid growth path back again. It will take still some time before we come to the previous levels of 7 to 8%, but we will definitely be growing much faster than the rest of the world.
So I think that's a great perspective. A, that in past recovery has happened much faster. B, 9 quarters is something that we see as general downturn. This might take a little longer, but would definitely happen. So let's move back to the polls, which has some related questions. Rohit, could you please show us results of the previous question, and then we can open the third question. CV driver as a profession is a high-risk profession. So do you believe lack of availability of drivers shall delay demand? 58% of our audience also believe a yes. And Mr. Arya also highlighted that transporters would definitely remain under pressure. Let's move on to the next question of the poll, which talks about what are the odds for a quick recovery for the CV sector post the unlocking of the phase. 2020 wasted, 2021 is a hope, not possible at all, possible with writers, depends on global economy. So you can choose quickly your answer while we move on to more specific questions to DICV. So talking about hope and talking about recovery, we wanted to understand how is it that DICV is looking at expanding its offerings beyond the existing portfolio? Are you planning to diversify into, looking at newer business areas, newer product portfolios? What is the plan that DICV has, given that you believe that we are an underpenetrated market?
Well, before I came to that, I definitely agree with the sentiments or the poll result from the audience. Drivers are a key stakeholder in our entire ecosystem. Yeah. And they definitely deserve much more respect and much more support from the entire society. And let's hope we are able to do that in the COVID world. Well, coming to Daimler and what are our plans, and specifically about diversification, which we talked about. Well, the reason that we chose to invest in India is because of this country's amazing potential. The combination which you see here of ingenuity, drive, talent, and cost consciousness, I think that's unmatched anywhere in the world. And we invested here with a long-term view. And a crisis like these, or what happened in 2019, do not deter us in any manner. Last 2 years, in fact, if you look at what we have done, we have been constantly expanding our product portfolio. Right? And we did that because we wanted to fill in all the white spots we had and wanted to address the major and the growing segments. We've done a lot on the export side as well. We launched a real heavy duty mining truck, which is exported. We also launched a light commercial vehicle, which we don't sell in India. It's from 6.5 to 8 tons, 8.5 tons, and we export it to the Middle East. And we will now look at new markets for that product. So what we've done is we've continued to invest in our product portfolio. One of the very recent examples which I would like to talk about is the India's first 5228 tractor trailer. It's a 4x2 tractor. And it's a very unique product because it provides benefit of a tractor trailer, but with decreased total cost of ownership. So it's a very unique proposition which we are bringing to the market. And I'm sure it will set even higher benchmarks for the tractor trailer segment, and our customers would love it. Talking about diversification, one of the things which we are looking is expanding our shared services portfolio. What do I mean by shared services? India has a vast engineering talent, a very capable and vast engineering talent, and we want to use it to provide services to other parts of Daimler. We already do that in various areas like IT and software development, R&D, technical documentation, and a lot of other things. And we want to expand this further because we believe that this is where the potential of India also lies. So this is one area which we will focus on even a lot more going forward. This would mean creation of a lot more jobs in India, of course, right? And we're not talking about a very low-end R&D work. We are talking about research and development in cutting-edge technologies where the entire Daimler world can benefit.
Okay. Right. So I understand that where we are talking about niche products being launched in areas like tractor trailers and also getting into new spaces like shared services. Rohit, you can also use this opportunity to show what is it that our audiences think about recovery in the CV sector and open up the next question as well. So large proportion of the audience clearly believes that there is hope in 2021, government support or no support. There is some hope for the CV sector. We can also come up with our last question from the polls side of it, which is OEMs are dependent on the auto ancillary sector, and do we believe that supply chain will be fully functional and from when? So clearly, they are the backbone of the manufacturing that happens in CVs, and that's why it is important. I think Mr. Arya also focused and emphasized on how they have been investing in providing the right knowledge to the auto component base so that they are able to transition much better than otherwise from the COVID scenario. So, we have spoken about almost all areas, Mr. Arya, and there are a lot of questions that are waiting for us. So I am now going to look into some of the Q&A questions that have come up. I think there is a more deeper question that people are asking on the scrappage policy. The question comes from Mr. Bibishab Japta, who is asking that scrappage policy with 15-year end of life, what is the vehicle park expected come up for replacement? If this is voluntary, what could be the impact on new vehicle sales and what are the level of incentives expected from the government? Mr. Arya, you already spoke about incentives coming in the second half, but this is more specific to 15-year park and result into what kind of incremental demand? Would you like to take up this question?
Sure, let me take that up, but it's very difficult to give that answer not knowing what the policy would be or whether it will ever come. And but let me give a perspective on the scrappage policy, and it's not only limited to the commercial vehicle industry. Well, if you look at India, we produce millions of vehicles a year, right? And we have never had a very professional way of dealing with end of life of vehicles. Like many other things, they need to have a suitable end of life. and we have to dispose them off with a professional way. And what a professional way means is we must reuse and recycle what we can, and then very properly in an environment friendly way dispose of what cannot be used, right? And I think we know that in different cities in India you have people who kind of do a scrappage, but I think we create more pollution by doing so, right? Now, I think the intent of the government is to bring out a scrappage policy this time by creating a proper and professional scrapping mechanism. So they are promoting that scrap centers come in, so players enter into this business and do it properly. Now, what will make a scrappage policy successful? It's a 10-year or a 15-year or 20-year. I think we will have to wait and watch what the government comes up with. One calculation from CRISIL showed that if it is 15 years, we may have 600,000 trucks coming up for scrappage. But I would put a rider here. They would come for scrappage if it is mandatory, of course, but otherwise may not. So the government has to look at how to incentivize that someone comes for scrapping. And this incentive has to be adequate enough. Why do I say so? You know, normally a 10 to 15-year-old truck would be with a second or a third owner, right? Or it has gone from a city to a village or a town, right? And these people will only scrap if they get an incentive. And these people may not be the ones who want to buy a new truck replacing the old one, right? So you have to make a mechanism where once you scrap, you get an incentive in the form of a certificate, which can possibly be sold to another one who wants to buy. Right? Then only you will generate demand. Otherwise, you will scrap but not generate enough demand. Yeah. And now you can imagine that doing that requires not only the scrap centers but a robust IT infrastructure where you cancel the registration of a vehicle, you generate a certificate which is tradable, right? Tradable. Yeah? So you have to build all that. And I think that's the reason I believe it's taking time for government to come with a policy. But if it comes without an incentive, I believe it may not give the desired result which we are looking for.
Correct. I think absolutely bang on this one. It is going to be inevitable to provide incentives along with a solid scrappage policy. Let's get to a little more deep dive into DICV. There is a question that comes from Mr. Ashwani Kumar, who wants to know what is the export strategy of DICV and how do you plan to scale it up, particularly with emission norms now similar with the global part. Yeah, so this is a great question to ask. How do you believe DICV is positioned to take advantage of this?
Yeah. Okay. Well, when coming to exports, export was always a substantial pillar in our entire business landscape when we designed our footprint in India. Right. And so, if you look at what we've done so far, we have cumulatively exported more than 30,000 trucks and buses to more than 50 markets around the world. Second, I talked about the global medium duty transmission, which we produce only in India. And I talked about 125 million parts, which we have cumulatively exported. Right? So export is a substantial part of our business. In fact, you'll be surprised that our imports are less than 10% of our revenues. I said we have localized 90%. And our exports are more than 30% of revenue. So we are, in fact, a great example of Make in India. And now these 30,000 which we have exported, these are the products which were designed in India, were developed in India, and are now supplied to more than 50 markets, which means they are very cost competitive and they are absolutely at the same quality standard which we offer from any other plant of Daimler. Right? Now, the markets which we cover are Middle East, Southeast Asia, Africa, and even as far as Latin America. And DICV is the only plant in the entire Daimler Trucks where we produce all the brands of Daimler under one roof. So we have Bharat-Benz, which we supply to India and some neighboring countries. And then we have Mercedes-Benz, Fuso and Mitsubishi Fuso, and Freightliner, which we supply to Mexico. Now, when BS6 is coming, of course, it throws new opportunities in front of us. We will definitely look at exporting parts and aggregates, which are BS6 compliant, to new markets because they are already following that emission now. And in future, we may look at the possibility of exporting BS6 or Euro 6 equivalent vehicles to different markets.
Okay. So this sounds exciting. I think after COVID moves on, I'm going to ask you a favor to visit your plant. I am pretty excited after hearing the product portfolio part of it. Rohit, can you also show the results for the last question that we had for the poll survey while I shortlist questions from the Q&A list? So yes, large proportion of the people are talking about 6 months being a time frame by which auto component industry will come on stream. And what Mr. Arya spoke about also highlights that with exports picking up, and if that continues to remain strategy for many players along with DICV, auto component players are set to gain. I think that we can't end any auto session without asking a question on EV. So, Mr. Arya, this question is from Mr. Milesh Gandhi. He's asking, Daimler already has some proven EV platforms globally. Does DICV have any immediate plans of getting it introduced in India? There is also an add-on question which has been asked by somebody else, that how do you see the future of electric vehicles on the trucking side of it? So I would like you to take both these questions together from a DICV point of view and from the overall industry point of
view. Yeah, well, thank you for that question. Interesting question. Of course, the future of mobility is electrification, but it's not only electrification. I think one thing which we all have to be prepared as players is to deal with multiple propulsion systems. We had gasoline and diesel in the past, and in future, I think we will have also 2 or more than 2 technologies which will drive our vehicles. Now, coming specifically to electrification, you are right. Daimler is investing into this technology. We are doing this in passenger cars and also in trucks. The way we operate is quite different from many other companies. If our plant in Germany is investing in the technology, I may not do so. I can simply take it from them when the technology is ready. So in a way, we have already started work on that. And when we believe that the time is right for India to have electric trucks, for example, we will definitely be a front runner and not a follower. And why do I say so? I think India has to also look at how our CV landscape is. Electrification is more suitable for small and light commercial vehicles, which have a limited kilometers of running within a day, and where the charging infrastructure is more accessible. So I think we have to invest a lot into all that before we say we are ready for electrification. When it comes to heavy commercial vehicles, I think their electrification doesn't make sense. I think there the world will go for a fuel cell technology, which I'm sure you know that we are also investing now in a partnership with Volvo. But that will also require that we have to develop the infrastructure to dispense hydrogen, and that will take some time. So yes, we are globally investing into these technologies, and we will bring them to India when we believe it's the right time to do so.
Yeah, so I think this very much tallies with even Crystal's understanding, where we believe that LCV would be the ones that would pick up much faster on the EV platform, and that the heavier vehicles may adopt other technologies before really going electric. There are a lot of questions. I would like to, take the last question for the day, given that we are running short of time. I think this question is linked to also something that Mr. Arya touched upon. Mr. Arjun Bhatia is asking a question on what would be the freight tonnage that DFC can take away from the road freight sector over the next 2 to 3 years, and which also inevitably means that would that be in a way a competition to the CV industry. We already spoke about logistics cost and how high they are. So how do you believe domestic freight corridors coming into play would actually impact the CV industry tonnage?
Well, the freight corridors, if they come like the government intends to, will definitely have an impact on our demand. And in a long-term perspective, I believe that this will lead to about 40 to 50,000 of demand taken out from the volumes which are projected. Right? But I think this is still better because the fleet utilization levels will go up. The cost, the logistics cost, which we just talked about as a percentage of GDP, will come down. And it will mean that we will be much more efficient as an industry. You know, logistics is used by every industry, and therefore it's a backbone of the economy. And if this is cost competitive, this helps every sector, right? So I believe dedicated freight corridors will have an impact on demand. It will bring down the demand, but overall it will be still beneficial for the entire economy.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arya. I think it was fabulous having this chat session. As Winston Churchill once said, that is it the beginning of the end? Not really. It is just the end of the beginning. We are going to have many more such chat sessions organized by the CV Forum. And over to Rohit for giving up concluding remarks for the session. We have many more questions in the Q&A list, but with the shortage of time, we would close the session. Over to you, Rohit.
So I first of all, I want to thank Mr. Arya for taking out the time from his busy schedule for this. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Hetal, for taking out the time to moderate this. And I would also like to thank all the attendees. Again, overwhelming response. Thank you so much. And you asked over 100 questions, as I can see. But I have Mr. Arya only for an hour. I don't have him for the day. So I'm sorry, we can't address each and every one of them. But we will be sharing videos. We will be sharing a post-webinar report and a press release post this capturing some of these key takeaways that you can refer to and share. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.